With the current version of the software, you actually go to the file information page before you really need to be there. So the procedure for this is to forget about all of these inputs the first time you make it to the file information page and just press collect data. It's going to say calibration must be performed prior to data collection. You'll press OK. Now this brings us to our calibration section. You'll now notice that the Air button is highlighted in green. This is the page that allows us to do our air and metal calibration. The air calibration is first, which means we're going to want to take our GPR sensors and rotate them so that they're facing toward the sky. All three of these sensors are going to be calibrating for air at once. And this measurement is done just to be able to subtract all of the noise that is intrinsic to the system when we're trying to measure the actual dielectric constant of the pavement. So the main thing to take note of here is that there's nothing obstructing within 18 inches of where the sensors are actually shooting the electromagnetic impulses out. So at this point we're ready for our air calibration. So we'll come back here to our software and simply press the green button called Air. And you'll know it worked when it turns orange and you see air calibration is in progress here. Once that bar goes to the end, you know that this step has completed. You'll now notice that the green button has moved down to the bottom. In this case, we're starting with the left sensor when doing our metal calibration. That tells us we need to go back to our sensors and turn them back so that they're facing toward the pavement. In this case, we can actually tighten our sensors because they're now going to stay in place. And for us to tighten the sensors, we want to make sure that our sensors are parallel with the pavement that we're measuring. So in this case, after we move all three of these sensors so that they're facing toward the pavement, we're going to move on to the next step, which is ensuring that our sensors are flat or parallel. Sensors are parallel with the pavement. We'll first check the pavement grade, and you can see it's slightly tilted so that our bubble is a little bit touching the line on the right side, and we're going to match that with our sensors here. So by just very slowly adjusting our sensors, we can start to match the level of the pavement. And once we have it in a spot that we like, now we can go back to our clamping mechanism and ensure that we're still at the spot that we like for level once we've put the clamp in place. So you can see here there's a little bit of adjusting that I want to do after the clamp has been put in place, and now we're matching the grade of our pavement. And you're going to continue to do this for the remaining two sensors. We're now ready to do our metal plate calibration. To accomplish this, we're going to place our metal plate such that it's centered below our left sensor, since that was the one highlighted in green. It's best to take a step back and look at your centering job and make any necessary adjustments from there. And I like to do this in both directions just to make sure that your plate is relatively centered when you're accomplishing this measurement. When we do the 2.0 procedure, you'll see that there's a major improvement in this direction where we have a laser actually coming down from the sensor to make sure it's centered. But for now, you want to make sure you eyeball it. So now we're ready to press the left green button here. And right now the sensor is just getting a feel for how much energy is actually being reflected back when it's full capacity. That's what our metal plate is doing for us. So now you see that the green button is on our right side, so we're going to want to accomplish this on our right sensor next. And again, we're going to want to place the sensor or the plate centered on our sensor. Take a step back, make sure you like it, and do the same from the side. Another thing I'll mention here is that you also want to make sure that there's no obstructions or anything that might make your plate uneven when it's sitting below your sensor. You can see here we're going to be testing a pavement that's been placed a long time ago. Typically on new construction you don't have to worry as much about that, but for now we're just going to recenter this now that we've removed some of the obstructions below the plate. And again, check our center. It looks good. So now we can go to the right sensor and you'll see it orange after you've selected it. That means the measurement is in progress. And we can do the same for our center sensor. So for our center sensor, the process is exactly the same. You're going to want to remove anything that would make your metal plate not sit flush to the surface. And you're going to want to center your plate in both the lateral and longitudinal direction. And once you're happy, you'll press the corresponding green button. In this case, that's our center sensor. Now you've successfully completed calibration of your sensors.